Hello, world. I'm Michael Calizo, coming to you from Wellington, New Zealand, and welcome to our third episode of PaNZIT Professional Podcast. And thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can get an updated new episode every time we upload the new one. So today, Joseph or JT in this episode, and I will talk to Mr. Joseph Abasolo. He is based in Auckland and a platform project manager for Vodafone New Zealand. We will give him a chance to introduce himself later. But right now, I would like to, Joseph, batiin mo naman yung mga viewers natin.
Yes, and that's me. Yep. Kia ora koto, and good afternoon, magandang araw sa inyong lahat, and welcome, as Mike said, to our third episode. Hindi mo naka-third episode na agad tayo. It's really good kapag when you enjoy what you're doing, Mike, right? And as Mike said, we also want you to enjoy, so make sure you subscribe, you like, and you share. So, yep. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. So how about you, Joseph? How are you? How's Auckland weather today? And what's the feeling about, when we, New Zealander, wins the America's Cup again?
Yeah, so firstly, kia ora po, magandang umaga, Pinchaw. Kamusta? Then, apa kabar? So, languages that I've learned throughout my professional work. Then, yep, so weather here is nice. It was raining this morning, but today it's quite sunny. Yep, yeah, I'm really proud that we won the race yesterday. So was hoping that it will be a national holiday today, but
we hope so.
Yeah. Did you manage to watch the what you call this, the boat
race,
live or the contest live?
Yeah, it was televised here in the office yesterday. Yeah. So,
wow, nice. That's really cool.
Awesome. Have you seen the boat itself?
Not yet, but would be very keen to go to the harbor to see that.
That's right.
Hey, Mike, JA, our name is very common. So I'm JT for now. Just a small trivia about the America's Cup. Did you know that the trophy that we have in America's Cup is the oldest trophy in sporting history? So it's the oldest trophy alive, and we have it again for the next 4 years in New Zealand. So that's back to back.
2 times.
Yep.
2 times in a row. It's absolutely awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and start the conversation with you, JA.
Yes.
So let's I want you to introduce yourself first, and tell the listeners what you're doing. Let's talk about some personal stuff as well. What keeps you busy? What are the exciting stuff that you do these days? And share about your hobby if you have hobby.
Okay, maybe before I start that, so
Yeah.
since both of you are getting famous, so I have a special gift.
Make sure it's wholesome.
Yeah, exactly right.
You just need to share it first, but definitely I will post it. So you will receive it maybe in a week's time. So since
Great.
Okay.
so since it's PaNZIT, so this is my gift for you.
Awesome, amazing, yeah.
That's so
but
cool.
it's not the Filipino pancit though.
That will do. That will make
That will do.
good concept.
Product of the Philippines. So,
That's how is it.
Wow.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Amazing.
Right.
so I would expect on your next video you should be eating PaNZIT. So
We'll try our best to prepare.
Yeah.
okay, so yep. Going to my background, so maybe I'll just give a snapshot. So I'm from Manila, Philippines. So I'm under Yorme, so from Sampaloc, Santa Mesa. Then in terms of my background, so I'm you can say from a technical resource. So working as a Linux Unix admin. My first role, so if you have heard of yehey.com last time, so I worked there as a ad. Then I moved to IPE Game, so it's an online gaming company. So we heard of Run Online, those kind of positions that here. Then after some time, I've like for me, it's I need to challenge myself. So I moved to Singapore. So I've landed a job in IBM, then CenturyLink, then Thomson Reuters. Then I can say I progressed my career in Sony Electronics. So I was there
Yeah.
for 6 years. Yep. Then again, after some point of my time, so I need more challenges. So why not move further? So then I landed here in New Zealand in Middle Earth. Then first first work is in Spark Telecoms. Now it's
Right.
in Vodafone. Yep. So currently I'm a project manager for cloud platforms. So yeah, most of if you say on a daily basis, I probably have a lot of discussions, meetings, talking to technical peoples, and delivering most of our cloud initiative projects. Yep. Then, yep. Then
Oh.
in full downtime,
Mhm.
because I do love to give it back to the
Yep.
people. So I'm a
Yeah.
I'm a volunteer in Red Cross. So
Interesting.
yeah, since way back in the Philippines, so I've every time I move to a different country, I feel that I need to be part of Red Cross. So from Philippines, I'm a blood donation that I volunteer in Singapore. I'm a first aider here in New Zealand. They don't have a first aider, so it's more of like a step up kind of volunteer. So it's from the disaster response team. I was I was in Levin 2 years ago.
Living. Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah.
we had this kind of disaster response drill
Mhm.
for we call it the big one. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
so
You really sound
The
busy,
bit.
Joseph. I think there's
Yeah.
something common with Joseph's. I also volunteer for the Red Cross. I donated like probably 3 times when I was in the Philippines. I'm also a first aider in here. So I think there's something in the name, right? So
yeah,
I think that's something admirable because being in another place, you want to give back to the community. That's really a good thing because they nurture you as your second home, and it's also nice to give your time and give your
Yeah.
talent
Absolutely.
back. So
Yeah.
fully agree.
as I was saying, Joseph, you sound quite a busy man, but you can walk us through your current job at Vodafone. We really want to hear more of how your day looks like, the day-to-day jobs,
Yeah.
the day-to-day tasks that you're doing, apart from picking up the plants out there outside.
Yeah.
Yep. So daily tasks is like so check your emails, check for make sure that your projects are in line. It's not getting any kind of scope creep or there's no escalation from
Right.
people been working. Yeah. So those are most of the daily works and a lot of discussions and you can say cat herding of people because
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know
That's
what?
true.
I've worked with projects before as well. And our project manager has a very special skill to make sure that everyone is happy within the project. I mean, what are the challenges that you see dealing with different types of personalities,
Yes.
different types of cultures within a specific project that you have? And how do you
yeah,
deal with it?
I guess coming from a background since I was working in Singapore, like there's a diversity of people that I've worked with. So it's
Yeah.
more of like adjusting how you engage a particular person or group. But definitely, if you start engaging people, it's more of like on a fun. I always, I'm, I'm the messenger of happiness. So may it be on a good side or I shoot myself. That
Uh-huh.
just to have attention or have that kind of relationship. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
Awesome.
important, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And I think that's the common traits of a good project managers because you need to be able to have a conversation.
yeah,
Either it's a critical conversation or a good conversation with
mhm,
team so that at the end of the day you work together to attain the project
And even just funny
outcome.
personal ones, right, Mike? Because we need to
Yeah.
connect. We have our personal lives outside of
Absolutely.
work, so that's really good of you, Joseph.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I'll ask you something that's really a little bit controversial in Vodafone. So Vodafone has recently announced that there will be some retrenchment, and actually it is a public reference that was broadcast in radio and even in TV here in New
mhm,
Zealand. Is this affecting you at all in your current role? And how does it feel to have a retrenchment in a company that you work in?
Yeah, so I would answer first the Vodafone. So it's,
Mm.
I guess, yeah, it's a company direction to do that. That's I guess, for some company benefits. But
Mhm.
Vodafone is doing an awesome job for this
Mhm.
news, because they're giving a lot of support for everyone across,
Mhm.
even for the people that are will be candidate for redundancy, or the people that are not impacted. So we are,
Mm.
so management, we usually have, we call it weekly or bi-weekly stand up.
Mhm.
So management is really having that visibility
That's good.
Mm.
for, yeah, for our physical and, can say, psychological or emotional health. Yep. Vodafone is quite good in it. And I guess on my part,
Mhm.
I
Mm.
have experienced two redundancy
All right.
on
Mm.
throughout my whole career. So the funny thing is, so maybe I share some story. When I was working in Singapore last time
Mm.
in CenturyLink. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah, so on my first 6 months, I was the hosting service engineer. Then they
Mm.
promoted me as the team lead. Then
Yeah.
on my first year anniversary, on that day, HR
Mm.
called me. HR called me.
Mm.
Then I thought, oh, maybe another promotion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But when I went to the room, there were only 5 people, and they told me you will be made redundant.
Ah.
So
Yeah. That's a nerve-wracking
It
breaking
is.
news. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Mm.
it was nerve-wracking. First time I've
Mm.
experienced. I guess from that
Mm.
situation, I've
Mm.
learned a lot
Mm.
in a
That's
Uh-huh.
case
good.
how, how to prepare, and because you've been in your comfort zone for sometimes, because during those time, most
Mm.
of most of the shift, because it's a shift work. Sometimes we,
Mm.
if you would know these things, we play Dota during
Mm.
night
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
So your motivation, or your motivation to work, or to
Mm.
improve yourself, was gone when I was there, because, yeah, because it, you can say, I didn't prepare for those kind of things. Yep.
Mm.
It was a realization for me that I need to be ready at any times.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's right, Joseph.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't realize, or especially people outside our space
Mm.
don't realize, like our
Mm.
relatives back in the
Mm.
Philippines don't realize that we are all at risk. And
Yeah.
Mm.
you've touched a bit on mental health and all that.
Mm.
3
Mm.
redundancies, man, that's not easy, right?
Yeah.
No, not
How
at all.
did you
Mm.
cope up personally? And I'm pretty sure that the emotions will also flow
Mm.
through your
Mm.
family, your
Mm.
friends. But how did
Mm.
you manage to cope up on all those 3 redundancies? I think it's a
Mm.
good experience to share,
Yep.
especially
Mm.
for everyone who may or who might have experienced it as well in our current team.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay.
and
So
especially for the people who works abroad, because
Correct.
not everything is good news working abroad.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah.
yeah. So yeah. So after that discussion with the HR, so it
Mm.
was needs need to sink in with me like 1 or 2 days.
Mm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
quite
Mm.
quite a, you can say, a surprising news. Then once I'm
Mm.
able to somehow have the feel, then yeah. So I had to, you can say, I have to make some proactive and reactive uh tasks. So first thing that I did is I took a paper
Oh.
and
Mm.
I write down what will be my priorities for the next month, because
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
working in Singapore as in a work visa, once your visa
Mm.
is cancelled, you need to leave the country.
Right.
So you only have 1 month to have learn the job again. So I have a paper. So what will be my priorities? I need to look for a job.
Mm-hmm.
I need to focus on having a job. I need to somehow upskill
Yep.
for that
Mm.
one
That's
period.
right.
Yeah.
Then
Mm.
yeah, those are the things that you need to care. And I guess one thing is you need to be open to your family, because
Mm.
if you would keep it, it would be different for your family, and they won't know where are you currently, what's your
Mm.
situation. They won't understand you. especially if you're in the Philippines, they
That's
might
right.
think that my son or my husband is like Philippine. So you need to share them your current condition, and then I guess that's it. And I can say 99% persistence and 1% faith. Yeah,
Yep.
you also need to make sure that for me, like you also need to pray at, at some degree or at some point of your life.
Yeah.
But 99%, you need to do it. And I guess on my part, when I was on that situation, was I treat it as there's no like work as if like look for a job as if there's no tomorrow. Like I don't dwell on going out. I don't do on even. I isolate myself. Like every day, I look for a job to talk to recruiters. I try to edit my CVs. Like even for each application. Then yep, it ended well that I was able to land the job from Thomson Reuters. So which is
Wow, that's really good.
previous. Yeah. So but there's a catch when I moved to Thomson Reuters. So,
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, go ahead, Joseph.
So that was I was hired in Thomson Reuters.
Yeah.
Then on my first day, my manager told me, "Oh, this group will be disbanded." So
Yeah. So two strikes.
yeah, two strikes. So anyway, so on that situation, so for me, it's like okay, I've landed a job. I will be secure for some time. And my boss told me that just stay for 6 months. Then I'm happy for you to move forward. So I did my commitment. Then after 6 months, I did again the same
Process.
the same process which I find effective. Then yeah, I ended up moving to Seoul. So
Yeah. JA, because for you guys not to be confused. So you told us about being persistent. You told us about upscaling. And I think everybody who is working abroad, not only abroad but even working locally, wherever you are, you need to have that kind of persistency and an outlook to improve yourself. So yeah, so earlier you mentioned that you start as a sysadmin, and then you become a team lead, and then now you are a project manager, which basically a big I would say adjustment, because when you are a project manager, you are responsible of making sure the project is going to be successful. You have the budget that you need to allocate. You have the direct or indirect reports that you need to make sure happy, and you have a project sponsor that you need to satisfy the requirements. So can you tell us what are the process that comes into for you to become a PM right now, because not everybody has that successful transition from a Unix, Linux, Windows support to become a PM.
I guess this success or where I am currently is I would definitely the contribution a lot came from my peers, my fellow colleagues, and the support from my previous managers. Because if without their support or without their, you can say, their trust, I won't be on the position. So anyway, so going back to the question is, So in terms of preparation was being a technical resource in firstly in an operations environment. You've learned a lot of things or how the technology are managed or supported on a daily basis. Then
Correct.
as I progress, I was assigned to project delivery. So you become technical resource on delivering, you can say, new components, new services. Then I was exposed to these people like those PMs last time, PMs, project managers and owners. So it was a challenge to me during those time because every time I would talk to those PMs, it's always like, for them, it's you just need to deliver, move to point A to point B. But sometimes there's always a clash if the you can say some of the PMs doesn't have the domain expertise.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
can be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
one of.
So.
Mm, yep.
So my follow-up question there is, you've been a PM
Mm,
in Singapore, and then you come here to New Zealand. You started, as a technical support before you
mm,
landed the job to
mm.
become a PM again in Vodafone. So can you tell us about the difference between the culture of working as a PM in Singapore, an Asian country, to working as a PM here in New Zealand?
Okay, so I guess working in Singapore, this is a fast-paced country.
Mm.
So
Mm,
in Singapore, as a PM, everything is
mm,
structured. Most of the
mm,
companies where I work from is everything is
mm,
oriented, structure
mm,
oriented. So, and we are since Singapore is the global HQ for IT, so everything
mm,
needs to be delivered on the time. So
mm.
that's one thing, and most of the resources are virtual teams because of
Mm.
Right.
technology support. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm,
But moving to New Zealand, I guess the
mm,
in terms of resources, most of the resources are uh, in-house or local FTE
mm,
and
Yep.
mm,
contractors,
mm,
and there is some flexibility in terms of process.
Uh-huh.
So,
mm,
so I already accepted that as long as the project is progressing, it's okay,
mm,
Yep.
and
mm,
I just need to manage the expectations from my manager, from
mm,
the other stakeholders, that just be just be visible and have the integrity to
mhm.
tell them that what is not and what it is,
Correct.
because if
Mm.
you don't need to hide something. If
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's something
Yeah.
And
That's
you need
very
to,
true. Mm.
you
I
need
can
to
totally relate to that, mate, because I also worked in
Mm.
Singapore for a bit when I used to work for Macquarie Bank of Australia. So
Mm.
there is a huge IT hub in Singapore, right? And
Mm.
another common thing is that I also used to work for Globe Telecom. And
Mm.
for those who don't know, Vodafone is one of the telco providers in New Zealand. And
Yeah.
way back, the technology then was way different. Like
Mm.
we are dealing with servers, we are dealing with
Mm.
huge servers, and everything is
Yeah.
manual and all that.
Big rack. Yeah.
Correct. And
Mm.
nowadays, especially with the project exposure, the projects that you are working on,
Mm.
Joseph, what do you
Mm.
think has changed when it comes to telco technology? For
Mm.
example, how is it now in automation? How is it now in the cloud? How is it now in
Mm.
containerization and all that?
Mm.
Especially 5G. What has
Yeah.
changed based on what you can see from New Zealand?
Mm.
well, I can see from New Zealand. So um, telecoms are going to the uh, cloud and virtualization. So most of the
Uh-huh.
Mm.
initiative going
Mm.
towards that direction. And
Right.
Mm.
I guess the companies are investing on it. Maybe that's why
Mm.
a lot of public clouds are also getting some
Mm.
sort of visibility in the country. I think
Yeah.
it is the
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
I think
Mm,
that's a good not really tip, but a good insights
Mm.
to those who are interested
Mm.
to upskill themselves. Right, make sure you
Yeah.
start to learn about the cloud, containerization, and
Mm.
automation, all that. So,
Mm.
yep,
Mm.
I think you reaffirmed that, Joseph.
Yeah.
And
So. Mm.
just to sorry, McKen, just to add in. So
Mm.
I can say for now, for the current era of IT,
Uh-huh.
having
Mm.
having skill set in automation is, I can say, is mandatory. You need to
Mm.
Almost
have that. You
correct.
need to have
Yes.
you need to have that skill set. It's not something that that, that the
Mm.
industry will teach you. For me,
Mm.
you need to know it as one of your tools.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And
Absolutely.
we will probably
Mm.
devote an entire episode to automation, Michael.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
about the stats
Oh.
that one of our mates here at Red Hat is talking about? At the moment, only 20%
Mm.
has automation architects. And what will be the
Yes.
future figure, Mike, again? If you don't
Yeah,
mind.
I think we are moving towards 50%,
Yeah,
and the idea for that is to really drive the automation culture and the automation
correct.
journey. and some of the organization around the world who has successful adoption on automation has the role of automation architect.
Right.
Cool. So, in your role right now, GA, what do you think is the most impactful technological changes that you would, I would say, see that will actually change the landscape of the infrastructure that we know right now in the telco space?
One thing that I've noticed even way back in Philippines and Singapore, a lot of telcos have you call legacy applications. But these legacy applications are, can say, unsupported, or either the SMEs that knows these applications are gone already. So I guess so. So from this aspect, so since everyone is gearing to cloud, and if the company is envisioning cloud, so I guess it's either they change that application on or re-platform it, or move to a you can say compatible apps in a cloud. So that's and since I guess last time most of the apps are written on a standalone in a bare metal servers VMware, but now that we have identified that these apps doesn't need this kind of resources, now most of are going to containers.
So that I think is where why the way enterprise spend their money is changing from capex to opex, right? And because of public cloud, to be able to scale up and down, it needs to is something that enterprise is looking up to basically save not only the cost but also the overhead and operation, right? So in that sense, do you think the organization here in New Zealand are actually going to adapt into public cloud, or you see a hybrid adoption where some of the workload still remains in on-prem and the others will be on public cloud?
My answer to that is yes and no. Yes, in a sense that people really, or the organization really needs to move to cloud at some degree. And when I say public cloud, it's those three big public cloud. The big three. When I say no, because of most of the legality, because if you store your data outside New Zealand, it will be if there's some issue, then it will be difficult for New Zealand companies to somehow catch them, or if there is some legal. So that's why I believe there are some you can say local clouds or public clouds currently sitting in New Zealand, if you know those companies. So it's
that's definitely a good point, because on top of operational efficiency, security and regulatory compliance is one. Just so our audience would know, some of the major cloud providers are also establishing their local data centers here in New Zealand, and one of them we know is Microsoft Azure, of course. So I'm not sure if Vodafone will be riding into that as well. What do you think, Joseph?
Vodafone can say is very open. So Vodafone.
So it's always like
they would try to explore all of the public clouds if they can.
Of course. And that's always a good thing, companies who are open, just like Red Hat, we're an open source company, are the ones that bring good culture to their employees, their openness with the people, the processes, and whatnot. That's really cool, and that's very good to hear. And speaking of openness, Joseph, Thank you very much for your openness, because I think you really gave us a good inspiration. Despite the odds, despite redundancies, despite challenges and whatnot, you managed to progress well and even give your time back to the community through Red Cross. So what's your last piece of advice to our fellow Filipinos here and abroad, across the globe and back in the Philippines, in order to progress their career and move forward with their goals in life?
I guess for my part is you need to always I'll say don't be on your comfort zone. I mean, if you'll be on your for me, my personal notice, if you will be on your comfort zone, may it be at work or any aspect of your life, you will die mentally. So if you don't challenge yourself, if you don't strive for maybe for a better position of your life, then definitely you won't really have those targets. Yep. So for me, it's more of like what Mike said: persistency, presence, and consistency. So those three things, and definitely don't also be a introvert. You also need to talk to people.
Yeah,
that's right. Absolutely.
Enjoy speaking to people.
That's really good, because countries like New Zealand is a very social country. You always find people having conversation in a coffee shop or even in the streets. When you meet a colleague or someone. So that's a really good advice, and I think that will everybody should actually be doing that, to be able to have a conversation or to start a conversation by just saying hi and hello, because at the end of the day, you want to spread your connections. And in New Zealand specifically, the IT community here it is what we call a village. Everybody knows everyone. And to have a good connection and to have a good rapport and to have a good what you call this recommendation coming from people that might that you might have a chance to work again is important.
Yep, maybe just another thing that I would like to add for those like kababayans or people that are currently looking for a job. So here in New Zealand, I discovered that it's more of like 80% first impression, then 20% skill set. So when I say 80% perception, is more of like, because they usually use the word fit in. Do you fit in the group? So
that's right.
I guess you need to show yourself that you're confident. I guess that most people in Wellington are like that.
Well, how about in Auckland?
No, we're quite submissive.
I don't think so, but and thank you so much for your time, Joseph. And you mentioned about you enjoying talking to people. We definitely enjoyed having you on the podcast.
I enjoyed also.
So hopefully you keep inspiring other people as well. And for all our listeners out there, please take note of the lessons that Joseph shared to us. And it's something that's going to be very useful, maybe not now, but in the future. So thank you everyone for your time. Kia kaha, stay strong, be safe, and see you again in our next episode. All right.
And subscribe.
Thanks.
Subscribe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.